Shalom. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Ha-Rekah Kodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles, the great millstone, for teaching us this truth. And I also want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing this truth on the streets of Babylon and also on these videos. Alright, so the Spirit today has me in Judges 14:1, and we're just going to go in on a little bit on the Samson, okay? So it says, verse 14:1, Judges, and Samson went down to Timnath and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. And he came up and he told his father and his mother and said, I have seen a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me to wife. Then his father and his mother said unto him, Is there never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren, or among all my people, that thou go take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines? And Samson said unto his father, Get her for me, for she pleaseth me well. Alright, you see, so showing you as an Israelite man, you can take on heathen women, from the other nations. And your offspring, your children, they'll still be Israelites, alright? But, initially his parents are like, hey, take on, why can't you take on an Israelite woman, Because, that's ideal. Because whenever you deal with a heathen woman, the concern is that you're going to go into her heathen ways, including her traditions and her customs, So that's where King Solomon had made that mistake, So the sin doesn't lie within taking on a heathen woman. The sin lies in when you start to take on the customs of that heathen woman's heritage or nation. And when it says in verse 3, that thou goest to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines, because circumcision is spiritual and it's physical, all right? So also, you obviously, you get circumcised, on your penis, but you also, circumcision means circumcision of the law, meaning keeping the laws. So the Philistines were considered uncircumcised spiritually because they don't keep the laws of Yahweh, because they're heathen, right? They're Hamites. And those people were not given the law. The law was only given unto Israel. All right. This is continuing on in verse 4. But his father and his mother knew not that it was of Yahweh that he sought an occasion against the Philistines, for at that time the Philistines had dominion over Israel. All right. And this is why it's not fitting to judge another man's servant. All right. Because as I did a couple lessons back on, Miriam and Aaron and Moses, and they had made the mistake, I'm talking about Miriam and Aaron, of judging and speaking against the prophet Moses, okay? The Lord's prophet Moses, I should say. So, she became leprous, because she was talking shit behind Moses' back with Aaron. Showing you got to keep your woman in line. It's not a woman's place to be doing those kind of things, And, women love to gossip, So, in this case, it says, the father and the mother didn't know that was the Lord's doing, right? So let's read on. Actually, let's go to Judges 13:1. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of Yahweh, and Yahweh delivered them into the hand of the Philistine 40 years. You see, so there was a reason why Yahweh put it in Samson's heart, and meaning his mind, to desire a Philistine woman who was not of the brethren. All right, and that's because he was going to get revenge on these heathen. So verse 5, it says, Then went Samson down and his father and his mother to Timnath, and came to the vineyards of Timnath, and behold, a young lion roared against him. And the Spirit of Yahweh came mightily upon him, and he rent him as he would have rent a kid, and he had nothing in his hand. But he told not his father or his mother what he had done. All right, so Samson had spiritual powers. That's what initially inspired me to do this lesson. Because yesterday at camp we was going in on the spiritual powers that the men of the Lord will receive. All right. So this is an example of spiritual powers, because it says here that the word rent means to tear apart. So. And when it says have rent a kid, it's not talking about a little kid. It's talking about like a goat or it's a small goat. So in this case, Samson, he rented let me read it again. A young lion roared against him, and the Spirit of Yahweh came mightily upon him, and he rent him as he would have rent a kid. So he literally ripped that lion in half with his spiritual power that the Lord had given him, you see. And it said, and the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him. So in these last days, especially when the oppression picks up and Esau comes down with a great wrath, the men of the Lord are going to receive spiritual powers, you see. Verse 7. And he went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. All right, so this heathen woman, she was pleasing to Samson, And after a time, he returned to take her, and he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion, and behold, there was a swarm of bees and honey in the carcass of the lion. So you see, he came back to see where that lion he ripped in half, and there was those bees, inside the carcass of that lion. And he took thereof in his hands and went on eating, and came to his father and mother, and he gave them, and they did eat. But he told not them that he had taken the honey out of the carcass of the lion. Okay, you see? So his father went down unto the woman, and Samson made there a feast. For so used the young men to do. And it came to pass, when they saw him, that they brought 30 companions to be with him. In verse 12. And Samson said unto them, I will now put forth a riddle unto you. If ye can certainly declare it with me within the 7 days of the feast, and find it out, then I will give you 30 sheets and 30 change of garments. All right, and let's go to Ezekiel real quick for a precept. And this is Ezekiel 17:2. It says, Son of man, put forth a riddle and speak a parable unto the house of Israel. All right, so that's what this was, a riddle, right? Here we go, Judges 1:13. It says, But if ye cannot declare it to me, then shall ye give me 30 sheets and 30 change of garments. And they said unto him, Put forth thy riddle, that we may hear it. All right. He said unto them, Out of the eater came forth meat, out of the strong came forth sweetness. And they could not in 3 days expound the riddle. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they said unto Samson's wife, Entice thy husband, that he may... Wait, let me go back to my bad, I don't have the scripture up. All right, so this is Judges, verse 15. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they said unto Samson's wife, Entice thy husband, that he may declare unto us the riddle. lest we burn thee and thy father's house with fire. Have ye called us to take that we have it? Is it not so? You see? And let's look up that word entice. Entice definition. All right, let me try that again. To attract or tempt by offering pleasure or advantage. All right, so that's something that a woman would do, right? She's going to tempt you, man. She's going to attract you. She's going to give you some pleasure for her own well-being, you know, or her own interest. All right, so let's go back to the scripture. So we are on verse 16. And Samson's wife wept before him and said, Thou dost but hate me, and lovest me not. Thou hast put forth a riddle unto the children of my people. Right? These weren't the children of Yahweh's. These weren't Israelites. These were heathens. Right? The Philistines. Right? Who are so-called Africans or Hamites, right? So, you know, this woman's playing her little role, man, enticing her husband, crying, you know when your woman gets sad and she's in her feelings and her emotions, you know, this is just an example of that, you know. Let me see. Let's read it again. And Samson's wife wept before him and said, Thou dost but hate me, and lovest me not. Thou hast put forth a riddle unto the children of my people, and has not told it me. And he said unto her, Behold, I have not told it my father nor my mother, and shall I tell it thee? You see, so she's over here like trying to make him feel guilty because he didn't give her the answer to the riddle, you know. And this is one of the reasons why you don't want to take on these heathen women as wives, you know. Yeah, maybe you pop one here and there, you know, but you ain't gonna take them as a, you know, and start dwelling with them, you know, because what happens is stuff like this, you know. Now she's worried about her people. She's not worried about the brethren of Samson, who are Israelites. So we're on verse 17. And she wept before him 7 days. So she cried for a whole week while their feast lasted. And she's crying during a feast, man. You know, don't you see that with women? They get all emotional, and it's, you know, it could be a holy day, and all of a sudden their spirit is all crooked. You know, that's what these holidays do too. You know, these women get all emotional and stressed out. You know, I'll take, for example, the pagan holiday Christmas. You know, that's why it's a beautiful thing. We don't celebrate these holidays because, you know, we're not involved in all that stress like we used to when we were part of the world, you know. But anyway, let's keep reading. And it came to pass on the 7th day that he told her, because she lay sore upon him, and she told the riddle to the children of her people. So, you know, he broke down. He didn't stick to his guns. He was vulnerable. He saw her crying, and it worked, you know. You know, the woman starts crying, and then pretty soon you feel guilty, you know. So you got to be careful with these women, man. Okay, verse 18. And the men of the city said unto him on the 7th day, on the 7th day before the sun went down, what is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion? And he said unto them, if ye had not plowed with my heifer, ye had not found out my riddle. All right. So Samson knew that they talked to the woman, you know, and she's the one who gave them the answer. Verse 19, and the Spirit of Yahweh came upon him, and he went down to Ashkelon and slew 30 men of them. And he took their spoil and gave change of garments unto them which expounded the riddle. And his anger was kindled, and he went up to his father's house. But Samson's wife was given to his companion, whom he had used as a friend. All right, you see. So let's go to a precept. Let me see. It's John or Jonah. Let me check. John 3:29. And he hath the bridle is the bride is the bridegroom, but the friend of the bridegroom which standeth and heareth him rejoiceth greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. This is my joy, therefore is fulfilled. Oh, that's just dealing with the 1/3. All right, these people of Israel who will actually hear this truth. You know, you're gonna receive salvation, go up in a chariot because of the truth that you believe that we are bringing out on the streets of Babylon and also on these videos. All right, so that's what that's dealing with. Let's go back to Judges 14:1. All right. So let's see. Let's just go in on 15 a little bit. It says, but it came to pass in verse 1, but it came to pass within a while after, in the time of wheat harvest, that Samson visited his wife with a kid, and he said, I will go into my wife. Let's see, where am I? I will go into my wife into the chamber, but her father would not suffer him to go in. And her father said, I verily thought that thou hadst utterly hated her, therefore I gave her to thy companion. Is not her younger sister fairer than she? Take her, I pray thee, instead of her. All right, so after all this happened, Samson was let's see, my bad. I'm over here at work and sometimes these lessons get interrupted. So it says, but it came to pass. I'm sorry, I'm on verse 2. So now the father's offering the younger daughter and saying, hey, she's prettier than, your other lady. So let's keep reading. And Samson said, concerning them, now shall I be more blameless than the Philistines, though I do them a displeasure? And Samson went and caught 300 foxes and took firebrands and turned the tail to tail and put a firebrand in the midst between two tails. And when he had set the brands on fire, he let them go in the standing corn of the Philistines, and burned up both the shocks and also the standing corn with the vineyards and olives. All right, so Samson was pissed. He goes in because these people did a wicked thing. They gave his woman to his companion, thinking that it was okay because they were going to offer the younger, her sister. So he was pissed. He burned up their vineyards. He burned up their corn. Caught all those animals, tied them up by their tails. Verse 6. Then the Philistines said, who hath done this? And they answered, Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he had taken his wife and given her to his companion. And the Philistines came up and burnt her with her father with fire. So now you see what happens now. And it's all because of this woman was just weak and vulnerable, and she wanted to know the riddle, right? This is all why this transpired, And remember, his parents was like, don't take on this heathen woman, But again, remember, it was the Lord's will for that to happen so that all this drama could happen, So this is verse 7. And Samson said unto them, though ye have done this, yet will I be avenged of you, and after that I will cease. And he smote them hip and thigh with a great slaughter, and he went down and dwelt in the top of the rock Etam. Then the Philistines went up and pitched in Judah and spread themselves in Lehi. And the men of Judah said, why are you come up against us? And they answered, to bind Samson. We are come up to do to him as he hath done to us. See, so the Philistines took revenge on the Judites, and then the Judites were pissed off at Samson because they blamed it on him, you know. Now let's keep reading, verse 11. Then 3,000 men of Judah went up to the top of the rock Etam and said to Samson, Knowest thou not that the Philistines are rulers over us? And what is that thou hast done unto us? And he said unto them, As they did unto me, so have I done unto them. And these are those 2/3, you know. Now they're blaming their own brethren, you know, because they're trying to please their oppressors, their rulers, who were the Philistines at that time. In the same way, these 2/3 nowadays, you know, they don't want you doing nothing wrong to Esau. They don't want you telling people that the so-called white man's the devil. They're offended at that themselves, you know. So these 2/3, like I said, like we always tell you, these 2/3 are regenerated in their spirit and their souls. They come back and they're still here on earth, you know, and they're still with that 2/3 mentality. All right, verse 12. And they said unto him, We are come down to bind thee, that we may deliver thee into the hand of the Philistines. And Samson said unto them, Swear unto me that ye will not fall upon me yourselves. And they spake unto him, saying, No, but we will bind thee fast and deliver thee into their hand, but surely we will not kill thee. And they bound him with 2 new cords and brought him up from the rock. So you see, a bunch of men from Judah, from his own people, the 2/3, they delivered him to the Philistines. You know, that's the same way in these last days. These 2/3, these so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans that don't believe this truth, they still have that same spirit, and they're going to turn in, you know, in the time when, you know, Jacob's trouble really picks up during martial law. You're going to have family members, you're going to have, you know, friends, you know, deliver you to the Edomite, you know. And basically that's what it is, you know. The 2/3 are going to sell you out, man. Verse 13. And they spake unto him, saying, No, but we will bind thee fast and deliver thee into their hand, but we will not kill thee. So they're not going to kill him, but they're going to take him to his enemies, who they know are, you know, they're pissed off at Samson at this point. And I already read that verse, so I'm going to jump to 14. And when he came to Lehi, the Philistines shouted against him, and the Spirit of Yahweh came mightily upon him, and the cords that were upon his arms became as flax that was burnt with fire, and his bands loosed from off his hands. And another example of the spiritual powers, you know, he was able to, because why? Because the Spirit of the Lord, when the Spirit of the Lord comes on the prophets and comes on us, hey, we're going to be some badass motherfuckers, man. We're going to be tearing some shit up, you know. Let me just go to Jeremiah 16:16 real quick. It says, Behold, I will send for many fishers, saith Yahweh, and they shall fish them. And after I will send many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill and out of the holes of the rocks. So right now we're fishing, right? We're fishing for the elect, right? We're trying to wake up the elect so that we can inherit our kingdom, you know? Because once the elect is sealed, the 144,000 prophets, hey, that's when this end is going to come, you know? But because we're fishers, but we're going to be hunters, all right, with spiritual powers. We're going to hunt down these Edomites and really dealing with the elite, you know, out of the clefts in the rocks where they're going to hide. They're going to be hiding in those clefts in the rocks, in those underground bunkers and whatnot, you know. And even in, I think it's called NORAD, it's a sophisticated system where I believe it's inside the mountain. You know, they have all their you know, military stuff. And also, no coincidence, that's why they put the Space Force over here in Colorado Springs, okay, where we're at. We're in Denver, but that's just about 45 minutes, an hour away driving to Colorado Springs, right? So we'll get back to the scriptures in Judges, and we go to 15, and we are at 15. it says, and he found a new jawbone of an ass, and put forth his hand, and took it, and slew 1,000 men therewith. All right, so he killed 1,000 men with a jawbone, right? And I mean, even if you just think about that, that's definitely some spiritual power to kill 1,000 men with just the jawbone of a donkey. That's what an ass is, right? So verse 16. And Samson said, with the jawbone of an ass, heaps upon heaps, with the jaw of an ass have I slain 1,000 men. All right, so, hey, the prophets, when Yahweh gives us spiritual powers, hey, killing 1,000 men is going to be an easy thing, And it came to pass, when he had made an end of speaking, that he cast away the jawbone out of his hand, and called the place Ramath Lehi. And he was sore athirst, called on Yahweh, and said, Thou hast given this great deliverance into the hand of thy servant, and now shall I die for thirst, and fall into the hand of the uncircumcised? And Yahweh clave an hollow place that was in the jaw, and there came water thereout, and when he had drunk, his spirit came again, and he revived. Wherefore he called the name thereof En Hakor, which is in Lehi unto this day. And he judged Israel in the days of the Philistine 20 years. You see? So, just really wanted to go in on the spiritual powers, and going in on, how these women, you have to be careful with the women you deal with, because you see how his woman caused some drama there for him, So, even though you have a woman and she may be pleasing to you, you really got to test the spirit and see if she's really looking out for you, or if she's looking out for her own best interests, And not only that, like I say, the spiritual powers. Yahweh is going to give his prophets spiritual powers, and when we need them, we're going to be delivered, man. We're going to be all right, even when Esau comes down with great wrath upon us. All right. But with that, I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Ha-Rakah Kodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles, the great millstone, for teaching us this truth. I also want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing this truth with sincerity. All right, Shalom to the elect. May you endure unto the end.